Hello everyone, this is Natasha again from Natural Answers, and today we're going to talk about a topic that is again a little bit sensitive. But definitely I think that this can help a lot of us in the process that's ahead. Now, today we're going to talk about how do we actually heal from past losses and how do we get ourselves from that kind of state of mind where we're suffering and in pain and facing emptiness to starting over in life and beginning life all over again, starting a new process. Sometimes it's really, really difficult for a lot of us to be having to go through something like that. But life happens. That's what we say, that life happens and situations come. And we just have to stand up again if we fall down, right? So let's think about this, that when we experience a loss, what kind of topics are we going to talk about? A loss could be a number of things. A loss could be something like a breakup, where people are parting ways or splitting apart. It could be a breakup of a family where people are going through divorce. It could be, just separating from, moving away from a place and you're parting the ways. You're moving away from your friends or family or your loved ones. It could mean a loss, can also mean a loss of a loved one or a relative, where that's really, really painful to go through. And we have to go through maybe a whole grieving cycle. It might take a lot of time, but we eventually have to start to move on or recover from that. And I know it's really painful when a person is experiencing it, but mm, eventually, we have to heal ourselves from it. And another kind of loss, so loss could be something as extreme a situation like that, or it could be something as simple as receiving a bad news or going through an incident where you didn't expect things to be a certain way, but now something unexpected occurred and now you're going through a loss. It could be something as not reaching a desired goal or a desired result, right? You're trying so hard for something and you just thought that something is going to come up somehow you're going to get through this, but you weren't able to, and now you've accomplished some kind of sense of failure, which where you see your goals kind of moving away from you. That's a sense of loss as well. So when we think about the loss, it has a lot to do with our psychology of attachment. What happens because of the way we are living, right? We know that the world we're living in is physical, and because it's physical, we're kind of limited in terms of the time that we're in and the space we're in. Like if I'm here right now, I'm not in another place at the same time, right? I'm limited in the area that I'm in. Same thing with time. Time, we say, doesn't come back. If you move through a certain time, you are now in the next time, right? It's very calculated, it keeps moving forward. So, what happens when we're living in this world is a lot of things are just here temporarily, and what we ourselves naturally attach ourselves with the things around us, especially those things that we start to like or we start to love or feel accustomed to, right? We don't want to lose that. Once we have something and it brings us happiness, it brings us, enjoyment, and it's there with us, we are accustomed to it. Now we don't want to let go, right? It could be even our dreams, our wishes, our goals, right? That we don't want to let go of all of those things. And what happens is when we see those things going away, it's like they're drifting away, and we try so hard just to catch it, right? Just catch it and don't let it go. And that's when um, we start displaying anxious patterns, right? I don't want to let go of this. I'm going to do whatever I have to do. Just hang on to that. Sometimes we start hurting ourselves. We start going through these depressive moments and regrets, where we just we can't accept it that something is moving away from us, right? And it's really hard, I know, but eventually, we have to understand the reality, and eventually, we would have the only way to recover from something like a loss is the first step we have to take is to just accept that it happened. There's no way to go around it. Until we are going to accept it, we're just going to be fighting it, right? And fighting it doesn't always help. We can change the way the future and how we move forward from there, but we can't change what's already happening, right? So let me give you an example of a story. And this story, interestingly, was inspired to me in a dream, you can say, but it's really interesting. So there's this girl, and so this story actually it's going to explain the reality, right, of what exactly is loss, or what's the other perspective or the other way to look at it, look at that same situation. So there was a girl, and she's in this house or this building, and in front of her, she sees a cage. The cage has a little tiny parrot inside it, and it's like a budgie. It's beautiful, but it looks really lonely and injured, right? And that's the situation a lot of us sometimes go through is that the place we're in, um, we're experiencing. So, for example, let's consider the person that's experiencing some kind of tough situation or some kind of a loss or some kind of, whatever is happening around them. And they're struggling. So you can see the image of struggle on that parrot's face. So she gets upset. She's like, hey, that must be tough to be living inside that cage. Why don't I take it out? So she opens the cage, and the parrot is really, really scared. It's like, hey, um, it's not moving because it's so accustomed to that cage, even though it wanted so much to go out. But now when the door is open, it's standing there. So the girl realizes that and she says, okay, because it looks like the parrot is scared, I'm going to help it. So she moves her hand forward with her finger. She's like, hey, parrot, you can come on this, and I'll take you out of the cage. I'll help you come through this because it seems like you've lived your whole life in that cage. I'm going to take you out. So when the parrot sees that, hey, I have some help here, it climbs on the finger and comes out from the cage, right? Now they've left the cage behind and now they're in that room, right? The girl realizes that this is not the place, this is just they have to travel in that area that they're in. They're not meant to stay there. Especially now the parrot is out of the cage, someone else could notice and maybe they would be scared that it's flying away and they would both get in trouble. So she decides to take the parrot out of the cage and goes up the stairs. So the building they're in is a really tall building, but it has 3 floors, right? They go to the top floor, and on the top floor, they enter that floor from the stairs, and in front of them, there's a room again. And there's nothing, they don't really see much in that room except that there's a small little window in a corner. So they go to the window, right? Now here's a bird, and you just took it to the window. What's it going to see? It's going to see the sky in front of it, especially when you're on the 3rd floor of a building. So parrot sees the sky and it just starts flapping its wings. It's like, let me out. And the girl says, no, no, no. I know you really want to go there to the sky and you want to soar like the rest of the birds, but this is not the time yet for you to do that. So the parrot seems to really trust this girl. So it stops flapping its wings, and there's like a moment of stillness. So then what happens is now they're looking through the window, But other than the sky, where they see kind of endless eternity and, some open air, they look down. And when they look down, now the girl is actually seeing all the people in her life, all the events, and all the things that she valued. It could be all the things that brought her happiness. It could be all the things that um, created resentments. It could be all the things she feared. It could be all the things she loved. All of them were there, one by one, as time was passing. When she looked down the window to a certain area, just below the building, she could see all of them come. There's people coming, there's people going, there's things happening, time is moving forward, and the cycle just continues. And that's where the dream ends. So when I woke up from that dream, actually, I thought about it, and I realized this is so epic. Um, this is the answer to what I needed at that time, to be honest. But what we're seeing is this world that we're living in is like a cage. That initial cage that the parrot was in, sometimes there's a lot of struggle in this world. Sometimes um, we only look within the walls of that world and we see everything passing away, or we see everything changing and we're afraid of change, or we're just so used to that way that it's going that we choose to stay in that kind of perspective or in that kind of vision of the world around us. But then she takes it out of the cage and shows it the world. So the parrot is not the parrot first. It's seeing the eternity. It's seeing the sky, the open sky where uh, there's no end to it. Like when you look at the sky, you can just keep going. Your eyes can just keep going forward and forward. There's just no end. Maybe you're going through clouds, maybe you're touching the stars, but it's endless. It's eternal, right? It's infinity, or maybe beyond, right? So, um, that's that's the whole destination of where our soul wants to go. So consider the parrot to be our soul. The girl is just a guide, a spirit guide. The sky is the eternity. And what is it when you look down from the building? That tiny little area where things are just moving a little bit. But when you look from the sky, it's so small. It's so small. It's insignificant. That is the world that we're living in. So when we're here in this world, sometimes we get really attached to the outcomes. But when we see from that third perspective, our vision changes. Our vision of everything around us changes, right? So we know that so many things or everything around us essentially is going to change. And it's not only the good that's going to change, but the bad that's going to change too. Everything is just coming to some kind of end. It's not meant to be permanent. And that's the reason we sometimes get so attached to some outcome or something that we start feeling ourselves in that state of sadness or emptiness or loneliness, or we start to give up, or we're just not being able to see forward. But what happens is that um, we've attached ourselves so much to something that now we don't want to let go, right? That's what's happening. And we know that the thing now we're attaching to is ending. So now people are thinking, oh my God, wow, everything's going to end. That's a really sad world to be in, where everything's just falling apart, self-destructing, and it's just like ending. So let's look at it. So what do we see around us that's ending? Maybe time is changing, maybe the space we're in is changing. So, what we can conclude is that the material world around us is ending, it's destructive, right? But beyond that, material world is an entirely new, different world of energy, or the spiritual world, which is eternal. Do do our memories stay with us, even though we've crossed time? Yes. Can we come back to those memories? And how do you know when you're coming back to those memories that you're not traveling back in that time and that space? Especially sometimes what happens is when you're trying to remember something. Let me give you an example here. So I want you guys to think about an apple. Like you woke up in the morning and you saw an apple in front of you. Now I want you to cut that apple and take a piece of it and just put it in your mouth and just feel the taste of the apple. And then you take a bite and it's all juicy and you're eating it, sweet taste. Were you guys able to feel that? Yeah. And you can feel the taste, your mouth starts salivating, but the apple is not there. So, what have you actually done? Do you think there might be a connection between thinking about the apple and having a taste of the apple? Maybe there was, and we just don't know. We don't want to believe that, right? So, that is an example of the non physical world or the spiritual world. We've used our mind to think about something, and the energy has an effect on the physical world, right? That's an eternal. The memory is eternal. The love and the happiness we bring to this world, that is eternal. And the imprints that we've left on the world can also be eternal, right? I was born, I did something here, I met with these many people, I made a difference in everybody's life, and I passed away, for example. All of those things that I've done in my life are imprints, and those are eternal, right? So everything in this world follows a concept like this. There's a yin yang concept where there's balance of the opposites, right? You see that circle where there's the Chinese symbol where there's like a black area and the white, and they're combining the forces together to form a balance. And that's what it is. You can say to live is to die. New beginnings have to come after hardships. They don't all like it's just a process. Like sometimes you're going to be up there, sometimes you're going to be down. When you're down, you're going to climb up. When you're up, you might be careful about falling down. And that's the journey of life. It has to keep going. If it doesn't keep going, that's not life. If the world is, if this life became eternal, then that's not life that we're living. It has to be a journey because there has to be progression, right? So the only way to actually overcome the feeling of loss, first we have to accept this has happened. There's nothing I can do about it. But what I can do is change what's ahead, right? And live with some kind of spiritual vision, some kind of greater goal in life. And then you will understand that there's always a way through, right? When you have a bigger goal, when you have a bigger perspective, you're not looking at the world while living in it. You're looking at the world from a bird's eye, right? And then you know exactly, you have that clarity, how you want to move forward from that experience. So the soul is an eternal being, and it's connected to all the worlds. My being is meant to transcend life, the time and space. My sense of purpose, my intention, all of this will survive. The love that I've brought into this world, that's going to survive. So just close your eyes and just realize this, that I am an eternal being, right? And that was all for today. I hope you really liked this video. Have yourselves a beautiful day and a beautiful life ahead. Thank you.